Here's Denny, Drew, and another Tim. Poor guy. Live from Interop, actually.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. When we in the past we have had, we always say live because this is a live show, but today is really the live show because we actually have a special guest, Mr. Tim Titus, CTO and co-founder of PathSolutions, and he is sitting inside the Network Operational Center of Interop in Las Vegas. So but before I introduce Tim, let me first introduce my co-host, Andrew Conray Murray. Hi, Andrew. Good morning.
Hi, Denny. How you doing?
You still not in Vegas yet?
Sunday.
Sunday. See, that's the difference. If it were Tim and me, we would have been there a week ago.
See, I definitely get enough of Vegas in 5 days. I don't need any.
The reason is that it actually has happened more than once where the pornographic international conference was a week before Interop. That's why we were always there early, right, Tim? You remember that one, right?
Yep. I usually get there early and work with Mike or do my own presentations, but that was years ago.
Yeah. So, Mr. O'Neill, how are you?
Fine. How's everybody today? I'm glad to be alive and tearing up stuff.
You look really good with the artificial LED light on you. I'm telling you, man. That's the best $10 you ever spent in your life. Okay, so we're back to our special guest, Tim Titus, today. Hi, Tim. Good morning.
Good morning.
So so everybody knows, this is Friday morning. And the show floor doesn't actually open until Tuesday, but classes start on Sunday, right?
Monday.
Monday. Classes start on Monday, and so I have to explain a bit. You have multiple roles today. You are the CTO of PathSolutions, so of course we're going to talk about that. PathSolutions happened to be a vendor, a supporter of InteropNet, which is the mission critical network that runs the show. But I want to dial back a bit. You actually, before you started your company, you had a long involvement with Interop, right?
Yeah. I've been an ITM back in 1998, 1999. And
so for those who don't know, ITM stands for Internet Technical Member, right? Team member.
Team member. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when we say ITM, that's an honor.
Well, it's a volunteer, and I'll tell you a short story about how I kind of got hooked up with these guys. This was back when the show was at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and so it really had a huge footprint, and they were giving knock tours. For anyone going to Interop, I strongly suggest get a knock tour because you get a full tour of all of the technology that's used. You have experts talking about how they're able to put it all together and really understand some of the underpinnings.
Yeah. But now, Tim, can you swing your camera slowly so our audience can actually see what's around you? Because it's really an awesome place.
Yeah. I mean, the knock right now is still being built out, but as we see here, there's a lot of folks here starting to assemble things, set things up, get things configured. We're just right now just occupying the spot and getting routers configured and doing a lot of stuff remote access-wise.
At the high watermark, how many ITMs are working there? ITM and volunteers are working there, you think?
Well, I mean, you have a total team of probably about 30 folks. I think there's about 15 ITMs and about 15, actually, I should say about 12 ITMs. I think there's about 10 team leads and then about another 8 or 9 vendor companies that have folks here. So ends up being a full staff here.
Yeah, and I have been involved with that for several years, and it's really a tribal experience.
Tribal, that's a good way of describing it.
Yeah, it's really a tribal experience. But actually InteropNet doesn't start this week. It actually started 2-3 months ago, right? Explain that to us.
Right. So it starts actually in Brisbane, California. There's what's called Hot Stage, and what that is A lot of equipment comes together and a lot of experts come together to build the network and set everything up and configure everything and make sure that the technology is going to work. And if there's any problems, effectively pre-troubleshoot them at that time to get them so that they're all nailed down and that everything's perfect. Then at the very last minute, they power all the racks down, unplug all the fiber, and then just roll these onto big 18-wheelers and ship it to Vegas. And the plan, and if the plan goes according to plan, is everything rolls off these trucks, and you plug it all into fiber, you plug it into power, everything powers up, and you have a network. There's always a little bit of troubleshooting after the fact, but it's really is that it's kind of the fastest deployed large-scale network in the world by the fact that it has to be up, fully operational, and also high-performing in a very short amount of time. So that hot stage time is very important to making sure everything's going to work.
And actually, it's not an equal opportunity event. You don't. I mean, you don't get, as a tool vendor, you don't get to participate just because you want to. You actually get to. You have to be selected by a team of technologists, right? So this is not something you can buy your way into.
Right. So it's the sort of thing that if you have interesting, promising, or new technology, that tends to help improve your ability to get selected, because they're always looking to say, how can we prove that this technology works with this other technology? And you're looking for true interoperability. And when you have new things coming down the pipe, like SDN, you probably know there's like 6 different definitions, depending upon which company you talk to, about SDN. And making sure all of this stuff kind of works well together is really, that's the true purpose of Interop, is prove the interoperability.
Dennis, just my take on SDN, there's not just 6 or 8 definitions. There's about 90 so far. I think I actually counted 74 different companies at different levels, different hybrid. I mean, SDN is going to wind up being like IPv6. It's going to be so complex, no one can deploy it.
I was off by a factor of 10, apparently.
So this is, I mean, being a vendor, to be part of InteropNet is quite an honor, but at the same time, it's a sort of a double-edged sword. It's trial by fire. This is a place where if your stuff doesn't work, not only do people not forgive, they don't even forget.
Yeah, it quickly hits the press when something bad goes wrong. So you have to be at the top of your game.
Yeah. So before we talk about how you as a vendor and supporting InteropNet, I still want to go back to a few years back before you start your company and just talk about your experience. You were just talking about how you got started being involved with how you get started to get involved with InteropNet. So talk a little bit about that.
So a real quick story on that is that I did a knock tour, and they said at the end of the tour, if anyone wants to help tear down the network, they can just come and join us. And I figured, you know, what the heck, I'll come and join and help them tear down the network. And I was the first person to ever volunteer to help with teardown. And they didn't know what to do with me. So what they did is they threw me in a side room and said, here, fold up these Cat 5 cords and put rubber bands around them. And they figured I'll be there for like 15 minutes and then I'll just take off and leave. I actually worked there in that room alone for like 2.5, 3 hours. Somebody came back and said, oh, you're still here? You're still doing this? Okay, fine.
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you, exactly? But at that point, they figured, you know, I'm willing to put up with, you know, doing some grunt work. They pulled me into the fold and said,
this is an R-rated network, so I think I can say this. I remember the first time that I was at a trade show. At the end of the show, I don't remember. I was around, and the guy comes around and says, "You haven't done this before, right?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, well, this is the end of the show. This is where the young guys go get laid and old guys go get some sleep. But anyway, you're there doing what you were supposed to do, packing up.
So yeah, I helped them pack up, and it endeared myself to the team, and so they invited me in, and I was able to join them for next year's show, which was interesting because I was invited to work on the Spy Network, which is a large sniffer tap type of environment. Now, what I was doing was patching cords, which is not very exciting, but it was always very interesting because I'd sit there and be patching cords next to somebody else who's patching cords, and they'd sit there and they weren't very excited, and they'd say, well, what are you doing? You know, I'm just patching cords. And I'd sit there and say, I'm working on the Spy Network. And they'd be like, oh, that's so cool. It's like, well, what are you doing? Patching cords just like you are.
Different group, yeah. Yeah, we used to always recognize the guys that were really in charge. They carried the fire extinguisher on their belt, and we knew they were important.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm glad, Tim, that you mentioned the SpyNet.
You remember that?
Well, I remember that very well because my involvement with InteropNet was 2005 when I launched the product for my company, and we fit right into the SpyNet. In fact, what we used to call SpyNet is what we call visibility layer.
Okay.
It's a fancier name, right? Just a fancier name, and I mean back then, we all watched the movie where it says that there's how do you say that? One to rule it all. The three rings, right? One to rule it all, something like that. And InteropNet is really where you have the three network. You have the production network, you have the management network, and then you have the SpyNet, which is really the visibility layer, right? That was looking back. That's more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We started doing the Spy Network General back in the very early days before there really was a SpyNet, because back in those days people were still deploying token ring. Some were doing Novell, some were doing Ethernet.
FIDI.
Yeah, and then we did. Then we set up the first ATM WAN transport connection ever, and that was back when there was like 3 people that knew anything about actually monitoring and networking spying, as you would call it today.
Yeah. So I think Tim mentioned mentioned something that is very important, but perhaps not understood. You don't get invited into being ITM. You get recognized, right? And then you get accepted. And the way you do that is to show that you are a craftsman, that you are there for the craft. You're not there for the glory. You're not there for the recognition. You're there because you believe in it, and if it means that your job, your part of the craft, is to unplug the Ethernet cable and sort them in length and put in the right bin, that's your craft, right?
Yeah.
And the way that you get accepted into the team, into the tribe, is by showing that you care about what you do.
Yeah, it's an honor. It's the thing is that if you're here to impress people, this isn't the place.
This is not the place. Yeah, this is not the place.
Right, it's all about the craft and the study and the ability to learn.
Yeah.
I figure this is fantastic, because I figure if I hang around with people smarter than me, I might pick up on some of the smarts.
Or you might not, which is okay too. So let's just, we kind of have the halfway mark now. We can talk for days about InteropNet, but kind of fast forward a bit. So you got accepted. You got invited as an ITM. You came back the year and the year after that. Yeah.
So I worked as an ITM for a couple of years, but then I kind of had to go back to my regular job. And what I found frustrating in my regular job was that network troubleshooting was still difficult, and that there were a number of tools that helped you confirm problems. For example, all these sniffers. You can have a sniffer that says, gee, you're losing packets. A sniffer will see packet 1, packet 2, packet 4, packet 5, and it'll say packet 3 is missing. It doesn't know where that packet went missing or why. So what people were left with is they still had to log into switches, log into routers, look at interfaces, look at error counters, try and find out what's going on, and it was still a manual search through that network. And so you had a lot of confirmation tools and very little to help tell you, hey, what happened 20 minutes ago that caused these packets to disappear? Where did that problem happen? And so I figured a new class of tool needed to be built, and that's where I decided to found my company.
And when was that?
So this was, oh God, I think this was 2007, 2008. And so what I figured was missing was the ability to have something automatically go out and use SNMP to collect information from switches, routers, gateways, and really kind of do a big data sweep at that network to say, tell me everything that I, as a network engineer, want to know in this environment. For example, there's a lot of people that say, well, I've got some basic SNMP tools out there. I can see what utilization is on my WAN link. I'm getting some inventory information off my devices. The problem is that you've got a ton of information. If you think about it, the average switch will have maybe 5,000 OIDs available for you to look at. But you have to download MIB files, you have to troll through those OIDs and determine what do you want to pick up. If there was something that automatically went out and said, oh, you have a Cisco Nexus switch, here's how to talk to that automatically. You have a Brocade switch, here's how to collect that information. And if there was something that automatically went after 18 different error counters, your bridge tables, your routing tables, your ARP cache information, your PoE information, spanning tree information, all of that information automatically, no matter what switch and router, that you could have something analyze all of that and come up with heuristics and say, oh, between this VoIP phone and this gateway, here's how that call traversed the network, and at the time of that bad phone call, your router interface here, your Ethernet router interface, was dropping packets due to a cabling fault. So that's what we're really able to do, is get you a root cause answer in plain English about what happened along this path, so that you don't just have confirmation you have a problem, you have the root cause of it's here and here's exactly what's going on, so that you don't have to do any additional analytics.
Mm-hmm. And you said you started the company about 7 years ago, or no?
About 8
years ago. And of course we can spend days talking about that as well. But needless to say that was not. I just assumed that was not a smooth path. You didn't go from nothing to a 30 by 30 booth in a straight line, right?
Well, I'll tell you, being a network engineer and saying, gee, I'm going to start a company, first thing is it's scary starting a company. You look at people and say, gee, all these other people start companies, why can't I do that? And there's a lot of things that you end up learning, and most learning comes along with pain. And if you learn from that and you get over the pain and say, okay, learn that lesson, then you're a better person as a result. I had to learn how to do sales. I had to learn how to do marketing, because the problem is an engineer is terrible at sales. So what that means is I will hire a terrible salesperson. I will hire a terrible marketing person. And so learning how to define good sales, good marketing, allows me to say, gee, I can make better hiring decisions. I can end up having a better team. And so learning how to do this stuff as an engineer is just challenging and difficult. So I have a lot of war wounds, a lot of scars, but I think the company's better off as a result of all of the learning that's happened, because we're actually coming into our own this year.
But it's also about knowing what you're good at, what you're not good at. I noticed that your title is CTO, which means that there's another half of the company, right?
Right. So hiring a good business manager is critical. But again, I'll say is you have to learn what is the right type of business manager to hire, because you can have somebody try and sell themselves to you, and as an engineer, you don't know what to look for. It's the same thing in the opposite, is that you look and say, gee, there's a lot of CFOs that try to hire IT people, and they hire IT people that really aren't very good IT people, because a CFO doesn't know what to hire for. So it's that there are certain skills and certain things that if you knew what to look for, you'd end up building a great team. And so it takes a few times to learn those tricks, but once you overcome that, then it's just a rocket ship ride, a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we probably should talk about that experience more down the road. But now, at some point, you decided that you need to that it was time for you to come back to being part of InteropNet. When was that? When did that happen?
So that was about 3 years ago, Interop Las Vegas, and so we ended up applying, and because we were so unique in the fact that we could solve problems that happened 5 minutes ago, 5 hours ago, really any point of the network, any time, it was a really unique value add that the Interop board looked at and said, yeah, this is something we want to see how it works, we want to experiment with it, and we want to support this.
Now, Tim, we talk about having a follow-up next week on I believe on Wednesday morning,
Yeah.
and you said that you might be able to invite Brian Chi to talk about InteropNet as well as your product. So we'll save some time for that. But what I wanted to do is what I wanted to do is really pick up on you just talked about, which is your product being an important part of InteropNet. So you have a slide that shows the network. So why don't we do that?
Yeah.
And then spend the next maybe 5 minutes explaining why your product is important for that network.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen out here.
I done sales for many years, and one thing I noticed is that customers always like to see network diagram, especially is one that doesn't belong to them.
Yeah. So what we have is we have total view here looking at the network. We have all the switches, the routers, the gateways here, but we go to the network map, and what this shows is a live view into what's going on at Interop right now. So we have a couple of different co-location facilities, Sunnyvale and Denver. We have links that come back to Cisco ASRs for load balancing. We have a couple of paired 6500 switches as the core. We have an off-show floor network connected by a Cisco 4500. Currently, the off-show floor network is not fully powered up, so we have a number of devices that they're working on connecting up to the network. But as far as all of the show floor, everything's pretty much operational. There's only one link that they're currently working on. And so this map, the way it's designed in our product is this will show live utilization and status of these links and devices every 5 seconds. So if a link becomes heavily saturated, it changes to a thick red line versus a thin green line. If a link goes down, it immediately changes to a thick black line and plays a wave file. And we have this big monitor up on the wall here that ends up showing everybody current live status as to what's going on, so that you instantly know, are devices available, are they not available, and then we have all of the error counters and other information in the product so that you can actually tell what's going on. So this is the network as it currently stands, and by the time the show opens, everything's going to be perfectly green and perfectly healthy. So we've got a little more work left to do here.
So give us an idea how big is that network? How many nodes, and the kind of thing that you would use to kind of quantify it.
So number of nodes, I dare take a guess, but I think it's as far as nodes go, there's all of the booths, and that's all of the different vendors, and I think there's about 400 to maybe 450 different vendor booths here. Then there's all of the off-show floor network, and that's another probably 250 connections out there. So in one sense, this is a network that's roughly about 1,000 total ports, but it all has to be extremely high performing, because what these vendors are all doing is they're saturating these links. They're attempting to saturate these links with applications that really need to be blindingly fast. So
yeah.
Kind of
let me turn to Drew for a minute. Drew, when you market Interop to a vendor, to someone who comes in as exhibitors, you explain to them that there will be a network available to them, right? And if that network doesn't work, they come back to you, don't they?
I don't really work on the vendor side of it, but yes, I've heard from my colleagues on that side that if there are problems, we definitely hear about it, because they're trying to, demo products to folks, to potential customers. So it's got to work, it's got to run, otherwise they're unhappy. And if they're unhappy, then we definitely get unhappy.
I mean, if in a way, if they lose lighting, they can deal with that. But if they lose internet connection, they are really not happy.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the same thing goes on the the attendee side. Everybody's hitting the APs pretty hard because they want to go on the web or check in the office back home, hit their email. So that part of it has to work really well too.
Yeah, yeah. So this when we say mission critical, that's we're not just using words. This is really a mission critical network.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if the network goes down, that's kind of it.
Yeah, yeah. So Tim, we should probably wrap this up. So where does your product fit? Where does it go?
Sorry, they just powered something back up.
Yeah.
What we do is we do the primary monitoring of health, performance, status, and also primary troubleshooting for the InteropNet. So we make sure everyone's aware of what's going on. Layer 1, Layer 2, Layer 3. We don't focus on the services as much. We focus on the health and performance of the piping and plumbing.
Mm-hmm. And so again, just help me out. So your product basically sits on a computer and it just sends out what does it do?
So we install on a single server, and what we do is we send out SNMP queries to these devices. And what we typically do is the software will do an interrogation to find out what is the device we're talking to. Is it a Juniper? Is it a firewall? What is the brand? What is the capabilities of that device? So we feel out the device to determine what is it capable of giving us as far as information. Then we end up analyzing the information we can get from that to produce these plain English analysis of what's going on.
Okay. Okay, so we'll come back to this. We might do more of that on Wednesday, or maybe we even do a post-show presentation. So before we close, can you kind of swing the camera once again and just show our audience what's out there? And people should notice the color of the T-shirt that people are wearing. I think I remember we used to change T-shirt twice a day, right?
Yep, we still do that.
So what are we wearing today?
Actually, today is not a
not yet. It's not official yet. Yeah, that's true.
So and then here's our big screen showing off our monitoring so that everyone can know what's going on.
Okay. Okay. Mr. O'Neill, you have a question or two?
No questions. I wish I was there. I did for a long time, and I got out of it.
I love this place, man. This is a oh man, the energy there. I mean, it hasn't even started yet. People are just slowly bringing up. So Tim, you have a 30 by 30.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit we're self-funded. There's no venture backing here, and so we've founded the company and decided to build upon successes. And so we found customers that say this is the way to solve problems, and as a result, we've been able to grow organically. And so we decided, gee, this is the year we really need to make our presence known, and so we decided to get a 30 by 30. So we're really going big on this show, and we figure this is going to be a lot of customers that are going to see us maybe for the first time and say, aha, this is how you solve those sort of problems.
Well, I look forward to that. I look forward to sharing that excitement with you on Wednesday.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. So, okay. Drew, any comments or last word before we close?
Yeah, I mean, I want to thank Tim and all the other folks who are coming and building the InteropNet. It really is a unique network, purpose-built every year from the ground up. Folks put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and from the Interop side, we're really thankful that they do it because it creates a fantastic experience. I also want to second, if you get a chance to go get a NOC tour or take a class, a lot of the folks who are working on the NOC are also giving classes, so you can get some in-depth information on troubleshooting, on wireless issues, and so on. Go check it out. All of it's free with your Expo Pass, so take advantage of it.
Yeah. Okay. And we actually have another show coming up in 11 o'clock Pacific time, and we're going to be interviewing Extra Hop. which is a actually one of the finalists of the Best of Interop award. So it would be very exciting. So in case you're interested, come back. And then next week, we'll have about 4 or 5 shows scheduled next week, all of which would be from the show floor. Tim would do one, and with Brian Chi. And then we have other vendors as well, so it'll be kind of exciting. So we have a big week for you, and Drew, are you getting some sleep, right? Because you won't get any next week.
I won't get any next week, no. I got to catch up now.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I think I'll close the show. Thanks again. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Mr. O'Neill.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye bye.
Have a great show. Bye bye.
Good luck. Thank you. Bye bye.